jet ski, Chuck. And on these dark waters, you got to keep your head on a swivel because you don't know what's going to come at you. So let's get into it.
That's what an explorer found right. Ancient Egyptian tombs inside the Grand Canyon. That's what an explorer found right before the government closed the area off from the public. Way back in 1909, the Arizona Gazette reported a story of a miner, G.E. Kincaid, looking for gold in the Grand Canyon. While journeying down the river, he came across what looked like steps carved into the canyon side, so he decides to check it out. The steps, he claimed, were perfectly carved, not a natural formation, and as he approached the top, he came across a man-made cave entrance, which do exist all around the Grand Canyon, but this one was different. He went inside, turned on his light, and saw tunnels chiseled with perfect architecture and more branching paths deeper inside. He kept going until he comes across an enormous room several hundred feet long. In the middle stood a giant statue of what looked like Buddha, holding lotus flowers in each hand. Now, Buddha has nothing to do with ancient Egypt, which actually makes this more of a mind trip, but we're getting there, I promise. This looks like it was an ancient underground city, which actually exists all around the world in places like Derinkuyu in Turkey. Kincaid was amped. This gotta be the discovery of the century, so of course he leaves and asks for funding to explore more from the Smithsonian, the world-leading museum research and education institute, the gatekeeper of archaeological findings, made by the US government, who gladly agree. They send a team of scientists and miners led by S.A. Jordan to fully excavate this mind-blowing discovery. With this team backing the expedition, Kincaid goes back to the caves and realized he barely scratched the surface. He left extremely detailed journal entries describing the whole excavation, with hallways up to 12 feet wide and large oval doorways throughout the underground complex. During this excavation, they find full-size rooms which appear to have been made for dining, winding halls with detailed architecture, and artifacts like pottery, urns, and to their surprise, copper tools and swords, along with rooms built for metalwork. All signs of an ancient civilization far more advanced than what should have been here at the time. But then they find this: Egyptian hieroglyphs carved and painted on the walls, and stone tablets with similar hieroglyphs engraved. And then finally, what appeared to be a crypt, filled with little cubby holes in the walls, each containing mummies of giant humanoids, some even being reported as reptilian looking. Yeah, Egyptian tombs in the Grand Canyon. They call this complex the Citadel, and by the end of their expedition, hundreds of rooms were discovered, estimated to house up to 50,000 people. They determined that, of course, this must be the remains of an advanced civilization that were here before the natives, and somehow brought the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians from the other side of the world into the Americas. G.E. Kincaid and S.A. Jordan presented their Egyptian hypothesis to the Smithsonian, who obviously did not like the sound of that and denied further excavation. Egyptian hieroglyphs spotted outside of Egypt? Absolute nonsense, right? Maybe, but this isn't the only time that such a claim was made, like the Gosford hieroglyphs carved into rock in Australia, which look almost identical to that of the Egyptians. It's hard to tell exactly how old they are, but of course they're labeled a hoax. Someone else carved them here a few years ago to trick the world. Or the written language of the Mi'kmaq, a Native American tribe that lived along the Atlantic coast, which shares a baffling number of similarities with Egyptian hieroglyphs, two cultures that allegedly had no contact among each other. This one was just a coincidence, of course, just like the Fuente Magna Bowl found in Bolivia with Proto-Sumerian cuneiform script writing on it. That's ancient Mesopotamian writing uncovered in South America. So artifacts of ancient Middle Eastern civilizations found in the Americas have happened, but we just ignore them. To this day, the Smithsonian denies this expedition in the Grand Canyon ever happened. And the stories of the explorers are of course deemed a hoax. So is any of this real? The native indigenous people seem to think so. Native American tribes like the Navajo, Zuni, Acoma Pueblo have legends of a race that existed there before them, even citing the Grand Canyon specifically as the place where the first people emerged from. These myths all speak of either a race of reptilians, yes, we're in lizard people territory now, or giants that civilized the area, building underground cities to protect themselves. The Hopi tribe even have a story about a sky god who, after a series of cataclysms, emerged from a moving star and took the tribe to underground caves in the Grand Canyon region to protect them. The Havasupai people believe the canyon is the home of the Supai, the spirit of their ancestors. The Paiute culture got the legend of the Havmusups, who also lived in an underground city and had silver tubes that shot lightning that could end a man's life, and silver canoes in the sky, which all line up perfectly with the flood myths, not to mention UFO sightings, around the world where godlike beings descend from the sky and gift civilization to humanity. And is exactly why the Smithsonian cringes at the thought of admitting to this, because it would imply that cultures like the ancient Egyptians had overseas contact with the Americas, completely destroying their current narrative of isolationism, which states that groups of humans evolved independently of each other all around the world. Today, this section of the Grand Canyon has some interesting official official names for the formations found here, like the Tower of Set, Horus, Isis Temple, Ra, the Cheops Pyramid. All Egyptian names, and these formations have the weirdest, most interesting shapes, unlike those found in any other canyon. Alright, enough yapping. Where is this cave, and can't we just go to it today to prove this once and for all? Really thought it was that easy, huh? The exact area where the citadel would be found has, of course, been marked off limits by the government. The Grand Canyon has hundreds of man-made caves all over it that are confirmed real, with only 30 that have been officially mapped out, some of which are sealed with steel gates for safety. When amateur explorers tried checking out the region, planes and helicopters would appear out of nowhere over areas designated as no-fly zones, some claiming they can even spot remnants of pyramids and other ancient structures in the cliffs of the canyon, implying the Grand Canyon may actually be the site of a bustling ancient city. Rumors of ancient Egyptian remains in underground cities in the Grand Canyon. Government closes the area off, and then planes and drones are found scouting the area. Are they hiding something from us, or am I just gonna get stitched into another Mr. Know-It-All debunking video?
Everything seems to be lining up. This is what I'm talking about now. This is the waters we need to be diving on. What's going on with the Grand Canyon? Your thoughts below. Jump in the comments and tell me what you know about the Grand Canyon right now. We need to figure this out. We're going to dive even deeper on these waters about the Grand Canyon and the pyramids.
Have proof that the Red Sea crossing happened. Like proof, not just artifacts on the bottom. We had those. We had chariot wheels on the bottom of the Red Sea. We had all these cool little artifacts. But the coolest thing that I saw is the shoreline. If you've ever watched the Ten Commandments movie, they had that big pillar of fire that came down. That's mentioned in the Bible. This pillar of fire, I just pictured these flames coming down. But when you go to that shoreline where it's documented to happen, the entire shoreline is melted sand. And it takes about 3,000 degrees or more to melt that sand. And it's evenly melted. You can almost see like footprints. There's stones infused in this melted sand. This is amazing. You don't hear about it. If it was a proof of evolution, it would be in every single textbook. But it's a proof that there was an exodus, like we're having today. You're talking about the exodus, people leaving the cities.
Fool me once, fool me once, fool me once. Shame on, shame on. Shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again, can't get fooled again, can't get fooled again, can't get fooled again, can't get fooled again,
know that Egypt has 118 pyramids, but did you know that America has over 2,000? This conspiracy theory is guaranteed to blow your mind. It states that the Grand Canyon is a path to Egypt, and that's because there's pyramids, hieroglyphics, mummies, and tons of other Egyptian artifacts were found, and all the areas that are marked off actually mimic Orion's belt. And all the main points are named after Egyptian gods. And some of the biggest pyramids around the world and in the United States are actually hidden under mountains. Go ahead, look it up. The majority of the pyramids really start picking up along the eastern part of America, which according to this map of what America really is, that's all ancient Mesopotamia and Babylon, which makes sense why you find all these ancient hidden civilization in the eastern parts of America. And why you have all these obelisks. Because America's the real Egypt, and they've just been lying to you. What do you think?
America, map of ancient pyramid civilizations and prehistoric communities. All right, now if you look at this map, it is a map of modern day America. And look at all the pyramids in America. Just look at it. I'm going to get into it later.
Up in Idaho camping, Would you look at this? I think I found an ancient mound. Cause that's like a pyramid like. Not gonna explore it this weekend, but gonna come back up here. We gonna get to that spot. Cause that's looking really it's like a nipple.
While searching on Google Earth, I came across what looked to be a pyramid, but this wasn't in Egypt. This was in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, miles from the nearest town or civilization. So I had to go check it out for myself, and I drove several hours to go find out what this was.
I just found the coordinates from Google Earth. There's a pyramid here in the middle of the high plains of Wyoming. What in the world is this? It's huge. It's so windy. Sucking the air around my little. Gotta get back inside. So apparently this was designed by a famous architect in the late 1800s named H.H. Richardson, and it was dedicated as a monument to the Ames brothers. I don't know what you all think, but this looks a little peculiar to me. A pyramid in the middle of the high plains of Wyoming. What do you all think?
I think the ancient civilizations built that one. They built that pyramid and they're trying to cover it up by slapping that face on it.
For most of human civilization, we believed that life could only exist on the surface of our planet. What else were we wrong about?
Welcome to my world. Won't you come on in?
This world has more secrets than we could possibly imagine.
Miracles I get. Still happen now and then.
What is that?
That's not Kong. What could have done this?
Kong can't stop this on his own.
He won't be alone.
Welcome to my world.
Is that a mini Kong?